Hello and welcome back. I am back in Cardiff. I went on holiday last week, which was amazing. Went to Greece, had a really nice time after the Commonwealth Games just to relax, reset and make sure that I was ready to do the back end of the season, just mentally more than anything else. Physically, probably was absolutely fine. Just needed the mental reset after a pretty stressful few weeks and months in the lead into the Commonwealth Games. But now I'm ready to get back into training, which I have been over the past few days and this week, and just been getting back into the swing of things this week in order to set myself up for the rest of the season. In this video, as you've already seen, I'm going to talk about a massive excuse that I'm going to make for the Commonwealth Games performance, which I thought was probably under where I thought I was going to be in the race. I was hoping for a top 15, top 10, and I was 22nd. It just didn't go the way that I wanted it to go, and I'm going to make one massive excuse as to why this was. So Emily, I'm looking at doing a video on excuses. Could you just do me a run through of how to do a good excuse? You seem to be pretty well trained in them.
The key to a good excuse, I think, is it's the way you sell it to yourself and to your audience. You have to be reasonable, cover a lot of bases, and always leave an open door to add on something to the end of the excuse.
Give me a good example.
There are some ongoing excuses that I have.
You seem to have a good few in your back pocket.
Well, currently I am bunged up with a cold, so it writes itself. I've not been to a session on a Tuesday before, and it's quite far away, it's quite late at night, so realistically if I went swimming, then it starts at 8 and ends at 9, and it's a 25-minute drive, and it takes me 20 minutes to get dressed afterwards. It means I'm not going home until close to 10 o'clock, which means you're already asleep, so you don't get your time with me.
That is how to construct an excuse. I had an incredible experience at the Commonwealth Games. Even though I didn't have the race that I wanted to, it was phenomenal. Literally such a good experience, such a nice thing to do in terms of home games. So it's probably a once in a lifetime that you get to do a home games of that standard. I'm very fortunate in the fact that I also get to do a home island games next year, which hopefully I'll medal or podium or win, because last time round I did manage to take the tape. So yeah, I mean, Commonwealth Games in your home country, such a privilege to be able to do. The crowds were incredible. I was just buzzing off the back of it.
It's the way you sell it to yourself and to your audience.
So the lead into the games had been pretty good. I'd had a really good taper and keeping on top of the volume so that I was a little bit suppressed, so the heart rate wasn't going to absolutely trigger and just go off the rails, because I have the tendency to freshen up a little bit too much if I come off the gas, and that makes my heart rate be a little bit too elaborate and allow me to produce too much lactic acid. So what I did was kept the gas on as per usual, and in the past couple of races I've been feeling really good. Leeds, French Grand Prix and Metz, I had really good races. Came to the race day this time round, and I did my warm-up, and I looked at my watch because I had my heart rate monitor on as well, and the heart rate just seemed a little bit high. By a little bit high, I mean way higher than I've seen it before. So I naturally just thought, it's a race day thing, it's a glitch in the monitor, just ignored it essentially, and just it's nothing. It's probably just my monitor playing up, as they do every now and again. Then on the start line, waiting to get called up, I was just sweating heaps. And again, I was it's actually a really hot day, I'm in a wetsuit, boiling a bag sort of scenario. But I had sweat dripping off of my hands, off my face, it was horrendous. Again, I was race day nerves, hot day, looked around, are you guys sweating? And they were I'm hot, but not ridiculous. And I was just oh, whatever, it is what it is, maybe I've just warmed up better. So got to the start line, jumped in the water, felt absolutely fine throughout the swim. Relatively comfortable, had a bit of a dunking, but you know, these things happen.
Well, there we go.
It just happened to have been Alex Yee that did it. I mean, I'm fortunate that there wasn't a retaliation, because I wouldn't have wanted to ruin his chances or hamper his chances. I wouldn't have ruined them. He probably would have done as well as he did anyway. But yeah, just like a little bit of a scrap, but nothing untoward. Managed to run up the ramp at the end of the swim really well, better than I have done in the past. Jumped on my bike, and then all of a sudden I was like, uh-oh, what on earth is this?
See who is going to be first out of the water.
Come on, everyone here, get behind you. Get behind them, come on. As much as you can. Come on, get behind them. There's one, you can do more.
Jumped on the bike with Yeston and Barbs. I was like buzzing about this, because if I'm in and around them, they're going to make their way to the front. I know what they're like in training. I train with them day in, day out. I'm like, okay, good. I'm in a good position here. We can work together to get to the front of the race. I got the elbow flick from Barbs and to come through and pull my turn, and literally I could not. There was nowhere for me to go. My legs didn't have anything in them. Had a quick look down at the monitor, and my heart rate was through the roof, and I was like, oof, like what on earth? Had to flick the elbow to Yeston without even pulling through myself. Yeston came through, and I was really struggling to hold the wheel then, and I was just like absolutely in a box. We managed to connect to the group in front and make the chase pack, because I think it was Hayden Taylor and Hauser out front. So the chase pack was made up of pretty much the rest of the field, bar a few behind. And I was in there. I was like, okay, I've made it. Okay, try and recover on these descents. So literally freewheeled. The heart rate did not drop whatsoever. I was like, something's wrong. Like, I don't know what's going on here. I must be absolutely gassed. And anyway, got to the end of the first lap, essentially, still in touch with the group, but I was at the back, and I knew I was in a bit of trouble here, because when you're at the back going into a dead turn, it's going to be tough coming out the other side, because you're at the back, it strings out, and you have to absolutely drill it to keep on. Alas, this is exactly what happened. I got pinged off of the back because my legs just didn't have anything in them. So anyway, I had to sit up then, because I'd got pinged off the back of this group, and wait for the next group, which luckily had Dom Coy in, who I also train with, and knew that we could just keep on pushing on, probably lose a bit of time, but at the same time I was happier in this group, and luckily not on my own. Would have hated being on my own for the rest of the race. I managed to take the corners well, recover a little bit, and actually just ride a little bit better. Still solid, heart rate looked still high, but not as well as I know that I can ride, but still better than hanging on for dear life. I'd allowed myself to settle a little bit and just pull through turns and make sure that I was in the right position coming into the corners. That being said, got into T2, about a minute or two behind the chase pack, which was obviously putting us out of the race as it was. And I started running with everyone, and then I just didn't have the run legs again, even though I'd settled down after the bike. So yeah, it was just one of those. I was quite disappointed that I couldn't push on. Anyway, that is explained with what was coming up.
be reasonable, cover a lot of bases.
Now, I don't know whether or not to blame the performance solely on this, but it could be a big factor. And I wasn't the first one to notice this, to be honest. It was actually someone on Facebook that commented on a video of my interview post-race and the description that I gave post-race.
I mean, I had a decent swim, to be honest. I came out with Alex, so I was in the mix. And then I think, I don't know whether it was a bit of a fight in the swim and it just like spent me a little bit too much. But when I got on the bike, I was like, oh, this is not going to go well. Like, I was filled up with lactic. It was really tough. Like, I was around my teammates from Wales and they were going really.
But I didn't think of this until a day or two after, or the next day, essentially. It was the fact that the next day I woke up in hot sweats and a bit of a head cold, and I was like, that's strange. Like, what's that? Maybe it's just post-race day, like, you deplete yourself completely, put yourself on the absolute limit. Maybe it's just that. Anyway, the day went on, and I was like, oh, actually, it could be something else. And then I got told to take a COVID test, took a COVID test, had COVID. I was like... And I don't know whether to make the excuses, oh, look, I had COVID, and that's the reason that I didn't perform the way that I wanted to. I did take into consideration it could have been the lead-in, could have been the preparation, but then spoke to my coach Luke, and we were just like, don't think it was the lead-in. We did everything like correctly in terms of what we've done in the past. That's worked well, like, and went around the houses in terms of what else it could have been, and just came to the conclusion that it was almost definitely COVID that affected my race in that way. Especially when you take into consideration the heart rate, my ability in training before the race, and the ability of my counterparts that I was training with that did really well within the race. So it's like bittersweet in a way, because I did get to race. I passed 2 PCR tests, one to get into the welcome centre and 2 to get out the welcome centre into the village. So I actually got to do the race, which I am so thankful for. But at the same time, gutted that I didn't have the performance that I wanted on the day. The other bittersweet thing is that I planned to go on holiday the week after, so I didn't feel as though I wanted to be training because I had been ill, had been a little bit tired, so that forced me into that recovery. So, there's positives to be taken in a way, but it is my massive excuse, or reason, if you will, as to why I performed the way that I did and not the way that I wanted to on the day of the Commonwealth Games. That being said, again, phenomenal experience. I would never trade it in for the world. And yeah, just thank you to everyone out there that was supporting, family, friends, and everyone else that was there on the course on the day. It made the experience unbelievable.
And always leave an open door to add on something to the end of the excuse.
But yeah, stay tuned for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be doing a little bit of different training and hopefully let you in on what the back end of the season is going to look like for me going forward, and hopefully some more interesting content coming up in the near future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Comment below if you have anything to add, or if you think that it could have been something different as to COVID or recovery or training or preparation from what you've seen in the videos or otherwise.
Oh yes, come on, yeah, lovely transition at the front here now. Run, fast as you can, run, come on, you can run faster than that. Yes, here we go, cycle! Oh, lovely, run there, absolutely glorious. And the lad over there, look at him go, absolutely unbelievable. Transition! Oh, come on, transition! Not much transitioning going on here at all. Sir, where's your transition? Come on, run! Run! As fast as you can! Cycle! There we go. Run again! Run! Swing! Fast as you can!